Hey everybody, this is Games Plus James, and welcome to the first devlog for this new game I'm working on, which is currently nameless, but is making a little bit of progress, and I'm hoping that we'll have a fun little devlog series to see what goes into making a game and releasing it. So this first video, I'm just going to talk about the basics of what I've got going in this game. So the idea of the game is essentially, it's obviously a platformer, but the idea I had was to make this very tightly cramped, enclosed looking platformer area. But the most important element of what I wanted in this is to make it all happen on one screen of a game. So you're able to zoom in and out as you go as well to make some of the platforming a bit easier. But the idea is you'll have this whole big massive area to run around in on your screen, slowly make your way through and get to the end. And obviously there'll be things like there's pickups along the way for you to collect, and death will happen a lot. It's meant to be pretty challenging, but not unfair or punishing, or not hopefully not anything that should take you by surprise. More stuff that's challenging and you have to repeatedly try it to get better and get through things as you go. It's been a lot of fun working on this little project. It's kind of, I started working on it at the start of the year in little bits and pieces, so it's not something I've been working on full time or anything like that. Obviously we're still doing videos here on the channel and stuff like that. Lots more tutorials coming soon, but there's some cool things going on. I like we've got a little blood splatter effect that if you're close to a wall or the ground or anything, it'll leave a little blood splatter on the ground for fun. And there's lots of other cool things going on, but as I said, we'll jump back to an early version of this project, and I'll just talk through some of the things I've done along the way and see how we get on, and we'll go from there. So let's jump back and take a look at where I started with this game. So what you can see on the screen here is the basics of what I started off with. We had our player able to move around and run around and things like that, but most of what I did was kind of roughly sketch out the idea of what I want. You can see there's a big massive area there. That's the rough route I wanted to make your player go through the whole area. I had this idea of the single screen platformer going on, but I needed to obviously test this out. So we got some basics in here. Everything looks very simple and blocky as well, because I wanted to keep things nice and easy while I worked on this first little bit of a prototype. But from there, I obviously knew I wanted to have a few more elements going on in the game. I have plans for lots of different mechanics that you'll use in the game. So the first thing I worked on was just these spike traps that would switch in and out as you go. And you can see it's pretty basic and pretty simple at this point, but I'm getting the basic idea worked out, and the idea is at this point you'll be learning, hey, things can switch as you go through. Obviously to see the full screen of everything, you'll see everything kind of works on a basic clock. So the idea was to have everything, every second basically, things would switch. So you can see here we've got the spikes switching in and out as we go. But at this point I also realized that having the character be so far zoomed out was actually kind of hard for the platforming. So I implemented this very simple zoom in and out. I also added in the little blood splatter effect as I was going. It's pretty simple. It just draws the little splatter onto your tile map. Or it draws it onto the screen, and your tile map controls whether it's visible, basically. Maybe I'll make a tutorial on how that works if people are interested. It's a pretty fun system. It works nicely, and it's a good way to illustrate that ideally, as you go through the game, you'll be able to see, oh, hey, these are all the places I died as I ran through the whole level. So from here, then, I wanted to obviously start adding in more mechanics. So I had those little spikes going in and out. So the next thing I wanted to add in was these slightly slower moving ones. They'll be represented by spinning saws, is what I thought at the time. They'll basically be moving it. They go a bit slower than the spikes. You can see in this first little area you're introduced to them, it slows you down quite a bit. That's kind of on purpose. But then as you go forward, you'll start seeing them operating in different ways as we go. So once I added those very simple saws moving in and out, the next thing was to add some saws that move around. You can see these purple ones that move around on the screen. Again, they're giving you one more extra bit of challenge. As I was going through this process, I had all my mechanics kind of planned out. I know exactly what I want to do with the whole level, but it's been kind of fun designing the level as I go, designing these areas that you're going to navigate as I'm adding the mechanics into the game. It's been an interesting way to design a game as well. So we've got these moving saws now. I'm also starting to notice, hey, this blue background is a little bit kind of dull, so I did a quick bit of work and I just switched them to this kind of gold and silver looking kind of pipe works. These tiles will definitely change before the game is finished. They're not what I want to have actually in the game, but it's just for the purposes of kind of developing and showing it off a little bit. Makes it look a bit more interesting than, for example, the kind of yellow bars around the edge at the side. So I've got these now moving saws, and we've changed our tiles a little bit. So I knew I wanted to add another mechanic, but as I said, I was enjoying the idea of doing the mechanics as I went along, but then I had an idea for a later mechanic that I wanted to just kind of test out. So I went ahead and developed a very simple little portal system. So I'm just at the moment using the classic portal colors of blue and orange just to kind of tell the player, hey, this is a portal. Very simply, you just move between those 2 points. Very easy to do, but as I said, I didn't really want this to be at this early stage of the game. It shouldn't be the next mechanic you encounter. So I went ahead and made a little area in the top corner of the screen with rough ideas for some portal mechanics that I had in my head. For the moment, that's kind of just staying there as it is. I haven't really returned to this area yet. It needs a lot more tidying up and a little bit more understanding. Obviously, you can see you can get to this point and there's no way to progress from there, but it's not in any way finished. But it'll get there. So then I returned back to the actual order of things that I wanted to do, our mechanics and our level in. So we have these nice little bouncy pads, little ways to throw yourself around the level, which added some interesting mechanics because it sort of creates these areas where you can have these like automated systems, but you still need to control the character's movement. So it makes it a bit more kind of fun to explore as you're going around. And again, it's just all about adding these little extra mechanics in. The idea is as you go through this kind of weird maze that we have set up, that you're going to have to adapt to different mechanics as you go. But then at this point, I was kind of getting a little bit bored of just looking at my little white block character. So I figured it's about time we actually went and added a bit of a character into the game. I had an idea for what I wanted to do, but let's just take a quick look at some of the designs that I went with along the way. So with this character, I had an idea. I wanted to make something kind of cute and fun, but I didn't really have a specific idea that I wanted. The only real requirement that it was kind of roughly square-ish in shape. So obviously I took my basic square guy and I made a very rough little guy here like this, who ultimately wasn't very interesting. It's not the most interesting character in the world. So I quickly jumped on to another one. Hey, let's go with this kind of, I don't know, slime ball ghost looking guy. So I started working on him a little bit, added some animations, and it was fine. I could have gone with this character. It's okay. It's not really the most interesting thing in the world. But if I keep going then, so at that point I said, okay, well, I've got this like ghosty looking dude. Let's try do something a little bit different. So we had this little character who would jump up and walk as we go on. But he had this little simple walk cycle. Again, it was fine, but not really quite what I wanted. Then I decided, hey, why not try a little lizard-looking iguana character? And I ended up with this guy. Added some, again, these aren't actually basic animations. These are kind of slight variations on the same idea. And then we went on a little bit further. I started refining his head a bit, changed his color, and then all of a sudden we got to this little guy here, which was a little bit closer to what I wanted. I gave him some extra little eyebrows at the top. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, I think I'm pretty happy with this little character. Let's add some more animations. So he's got a few basic little bits of animation on him, but they work pretty well in the game at this point. So from there, I obviously brought him back into the game. And you can see, now that I have him running around, he looks a little bit more interesting. I also added some particle effects, so when he lands on the ground, there's a little poof. And when he's running around, there's a little trail that moves along behind him. Very simple to do, but all adds to the player and makes him feel a little bit more alive. He's got this little blue trail behind him as well. But from there, I said, it's about time we added some more blocks in. So, well, I say blocks, I meant more mechanics, but specifically here are some blocks. So these are timed blocks that switch on and off every second, the same way as the spikes do as you're going. Obviously I needed to be a bit more careful there, running into spikes. But these were another fun little addition. Something I definitely wanted to see. It's a little bit hard at the moment. You can see when they're just these blue blocks here, it's hard to really know where they should be, but I knew I'd address that as I went forward. So with those done, I then wanted to move on to adding in these green and yellow blocks. So these green and yellow blocks, rather than being timed, these are actually changing when you jump. So when you jump, it switches the green or yellow blocks on and off. So again, you can't see where they are at the moment when the blocks are off. But when they switch on, it's much more easy to see what's going on in the game. So I got those nice switching blocks in. As I said, it's quite hard to see where they are when they're turned off. So I figured at this point it was time I actually upgraded the graphics for what my little traps look like. So you can see here, we've got everything kind of looks a bit nicer now. We've got our spinning saw blades over on the left, and we've got our switching blocks over on right. And you can see now that they leave a little outline where a block is going to appear. So it makes it a little bit more obvious that, hey, there's going to be something here in a minute. So watch out. I like these graphics, but as I said, the graphics are probably going to change a good bit before the game is actually released, so these will probably change as we go. But I'm much happier that these are much more illustrative of what's going on. So as I said, you can actually see, hey, these are where the blocks are going to be. So you can see as I jump up and down and switch these blocks, it's much more easy to say, hey, this is where you need to land when you hit them. I'm doing a terrible job here. You can see of actually jumping up and landing on these, but that's okay. So from there then, I added in one more moving mechanic. We've got this conveyor belt that pulls you along, so you have to avoid these various different spikes as you go, and keeps pushing the player around. Something I definitely wanted to add in, and something I want to do a bit more with the kind of trap designs with as I go forward. But for now, this kind of first version of it is kind of a little bit fun, but not too challenging that we have here. So with that done, I'm kind of pretty satisfied at this point. In my head I was thinking, yeah, this is probably when I should probably record a video of all this and let people see, hey, I'm actually working on something here. So I went ahead then and added a couple of more things just to tidy things up a bit. So you can see I still got at the very top up there a very blank looking diamond for checkpoints, and I've got a little square underneath the character there for just a pickup. So I needed to obviously make them look a bit better, so I went ahead and added in these little blue gems that you collect. Obviously they don't have any like effect when you collect them yet, but that'll change. And also for the checkpoints, you can see I've got these like little purple little dudes. You can see here they're turning on automatically. That wasn't what I wanted, so I switched it so that whenever you hit a checkpoint, it'll turn off all the rest of them and just turn on the one that you have active. So it's much more easy to see where you've been and stuff like that. So the final thing, and then I wanted to add, and now I have my player roughly working, I wanted to make it so that the player had a little bit more control. So here, it's hard to illustrate in the video necessarily. You can see I'm doing like little small jumps there. I added the ability for the player to do little jumps whenever they wanted instead of just always doing the same big jump. And I also added a little bit of hang time in the air. So you might see there when I walk off the platform, I'm able to jump for a tiny bit of time after you walk off the platform. It adds a little bit of extra feeling that the player has more control, and also makes it feel more fair. Because there's a lot of times when you walk off the edge of a platform in a game, if you actually jumped only at the bit where you're still on the ground, you would not make a lot of jumps. And that brings us back up to where the game currently is at the moment. So as you can see, I've got a little over half of the level design done in the game. And from here, I've got a whole bunch more mechanics I want to add in. So it's going to be fun kind of compressing them all in while also giving you space to learn how to use them correctly. But that's gone pretty well so far. I'm pretty happy with how things are spaced out as you go through the game. As I said, it's been a lot of fun working on this, but also it's quite fun for me playing through the game. It's a lot of fun as we go. There's a bit of an issue at the moment in this, which I know how, I think I know how I'm going to fix it, which is that certain things can become a bit desynchronized. For example, there's areas where where am I looking? In this area here, for example, where these blocks and these spikes coming out are supposed to be timed so that there's a bit of time where you can be guaranteed to fall through safely, but because they kind of lose synchronization, the blocks can turn on while the spikes turn off and stuff like that, and different things happen and don't work, and some of these little saws get mistimed with the traps around them, and that then makes a problem where you cannot get past the traps. So obviously that's not great, but I know how to solve that. That's going to be something I will do in the very near future. But as for where the game is at the moment, I'm pretty happy. There'll be more devlog videos coming up on this in the near future. As I said, if you're interested, I could do a tutorial on how the little splatter effects work, to leave a little trace behind you as you go. And one of the most important things at the moment is I don't actually have a name for the game just yet, but I will be talking about it more on Twitter and stuff like that. I've been sharing videos of this in action on Twitter, so if you're following me at Games+James on Twitter, you'll see more of this game being developed. I'm not sure yet when I plan for the game to be released. It won't be like a year away or anything like that. It'll maybe in a few months' time. But for now, I've got plenty more to do on this, so stay tuned for more of this devlog series. There'll be lots more coming soon, and also, of course, there'll be lots more tutorials coming on the channel for lots of more interesting things to make along the way. So thanks for watching this video. I'll be back soon with more game development goodness, and in the meantime, keep being awesome.